Welcome to Coffee Meets Cloud, where three women in tech come together to share real stories about leadership, life, and everything in between. Join our hosts, Karami McCollum.
In other news, these headphones, I'm going to have to do something else. I am on fire.
Cassandra Parker.
It's pretty basic. We have to stay fully caffeinated in order to do all the things that we do.
And Rachel Rogers.
I don't know if we can survive this. I feel like this one goes in the vault.
Your go-to source for candid conversations and unfiltered insights. So, grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and join the chaos.
Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Meets Cloud. It's another Tuesday. It's another chaotic week, and it's another guest episode. Here we go. Cassandra, I'm going to hand this one off to you today.
Oh, yeah, we're changing it up. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this week, we are bringing in a heavy hitter of customer relationships and account management. He blends a finesse of a business strategist with the soul of a trained musician. He holds a BS in marketing professional sales and a BA in commercial music from Florida State University, where he is also currently pursuing a doctorate of philosophy in marketing. His career playlist includes major tracks at roles like Google, Gartner, and Salesforce, where he's all about orchestration, shamelessly prioritizing client satisfaction and enterprise engagements. Tallahassee-based but globally tuned, he has a unique ear for what makes a customer relationship sing and what causes a flat note in account management symphonies. Please welcome to the show our friend Jonathan Riviere.
Whoop whoop! Welcome.
Wow.
My gosh, check is in the mail. What an
That
intro.
was phenomenal.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You can slip her a 20 later. It'll be great.
Yeah, I'll send you a Venmo. It's all virtual anyway. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you all.
Thanks for coming.
We've been excited
so
about
excited.
this one. I love talking to you, hanging out with you. It's always a good time.
Give it time.
I think the listeners need to know that we have referenced Jonathan, who we lovingly call JR, in the past, because we have talked about those episodes where we've talked about our favorite or loved or hated buzz phrases in corporate speak. And Jonathan here is the loving and abuser of a few of those.
I love them. It's a walking thesaurus. Synergies, value chains. I can't
Double click.
As long as we can circle back to that, then it'll be great.
I think we're all aligned on our next steps and, our boots on the ground to get some value chains. It's going to be phenomenal.
It's going to be great. And as long as we can learn about the ding in the elevator and what it means, then we'll be fantastic.
Let's put this on the back burner. I built a career off these buzzwords. Okay. I am the man I am today.
String them together properly, and a majority of the people in the room will be convinced you know exactly what you're talking about. That's the way that usually goes. So
Just string them together properly. You've bought yourself 30 seconds to think, what you actually need to say, what your response should actually be. It's just vamping. It's
Correct.
Just like the Comedy Cellar.
It is 100% filler words, which they teach you not to use if you go to presentation skills classes, of your ums and your and all of that. It's just fancier. It sounds more educated.
Hey, you have to do what you have to do.
the one I'm bad about doing as a filler is right. Like at the end, like right, or right.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll say it as a question, like, "Hey, validate me," and then sometimes I'll just say it as like right.
We have to pause this, even though this is Jonathan's episode, for this, because I literally just had this conversation with my husband this morning. He literally told me, do you know that Karami and Rachel say the word right all the time in this podcast? And I was like, what?
The amount of ESP I've had lately, y'all, is starting to scare me.
Yeah, we literally had this conversation this morning.
Wow. Okay.
All right, there you go. Karami and her ESP. Or ESPN, depending on the day.
ESPN.
I think it's raining right now.
She doesn't have ESPN, remember? She's a YouTube TV subscriber.
Oh.
Yeah. Pour one out for the homies.
Actually, she's not anymore because she kicked them to the curb and got Hulu Live Disney bundle.
There you go.
Yeah, I did it. I'm
That's
nothing if not quick to action.
There you go.
Yep.
Got to make it happen.
All
Speaking
right.
of making it happen, what's our first question?
let's get to know a little bit more about Jonathan. That's why he's here after all. So before we get into the really deep stuff, we want to know just a little bit more about you. So what is your favorite caffeinated beverage as you are on Coffee
Please
Meets
tell us you
Cloud?
drink caffeine.
I came prepared. Yeah, I'm a
Yes.
shameless Tampa boy, right? So I'm cafe con leche every day. You keep a wide horizon. Cold brews, great. I like this Muscovado brown sugar thing from Starbucks. My wife got me on that, but I own coffee in the household, so we're loyal to Cafe Bustelo. Love that yellow brick, and I'm making us espresso with some milk and sugar every single morning, and that is what I contribute to the marriage. Thank God my wife does everything else.
Hey, the good news about that is you're contributing, and coffee is one of the most important contributions that you can make to the day. So
yeah,
great
it kicks
job.
off the morning real well because the first thing she sees is me, and I'm like, "Cafe con leche? Would you like me? Remember?" And that's really been the cornerstone for our relationship thus far. So far so good.
See, relationships built on caffeine will last ages.
Yeah.
Okay, big topic that's always big with our guests. What is your favorite comfort food? So something you could eat every single day, or just something when you're really needing to pick me up that just brings joy to your soul.
This I don't know how the room reacts to this, but I'm just going to give you the honest answer from the heart because I feel like honesty is rewarded here and for our topic of today, right? So here's a buzzword, Rachel. In the spirit of transparency, I could run through one of those cylinders of the Pillsbury cinnamon rolls. Like it's air. It's just flavored air. I can go through all 8 by myself. And it's never in the morning. It's never for breakfast. It's when 8:30 p.m. goes around, or even if I'm on a business trip and I have access to an oven and an Airbnb or something, I will always pick up some of those cinnamon rolls, and just no shame. I feel the exact amount of utility on the 8th one as I do the first one. There's no diminishing returns.
So I
I'm
have a
both
question.
impressed and relieved that was your choice.
It's something Jeremy can relate to.
Yes, I'm impressed that you can eat that many, and I'm relieved that you picked something that tastes good because I've been really questioning folks lately.
But Jonathan, I mean, you said in the spirit of transparency. So does that mean that before that moment you were lying to us? Because I've always wanted to know this. When people use that phrase, right?
Mhm.
Is it like a qualifier to say everything before that could have been a lie? So do you really make your wife coffee? Or like now it's like you're being extra truthful when you didn't have to be extra truthful?
What a wonderful question in the spirit of customer relationships, right? I think it
Exactly.
signals the latter, right? I would hope it doesn't signal, up until this point, I've kind of been BSing you. Now let's get the brass
Right.
tacks.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I think I usually reserve that for if I can play some insider baseball, or if I can be a good account manager and send something of, hey, this, you're qualifying for this. If I can provide something that you didn't ask for, where I know I can get a quick win for trust or value, all that's good in the short term and the long term, right? So sometimes you have to use as a modifier for delivering bad news too. Something you can't deliver on, or if there's a product limitation, or heaven forbid, a change to your future pricing and packaging, I kind of offset the blame a little bit as good cop and say, hey, in the spirit of transparency, this was all the finance team. This is what has taken place. Not to pass the buck, but I think it sets some level of importance to whatever I'm about to say. I've never thought about it signaling that my prior statement was not important or not honest.
To put your mind at ease, Jonathan, I think she's the only person I know that thinks about it that deep.
That is
I've
not
literally
true.
never thought about it.
That is not true.
Career.
I have actually had somebody ask me that, which is why I'm asking.
That one other person, Jonathan, she met them.
Right.
And
all
they both
two
think
of
that
us,
way.
all 2 of us are really digging in on this subject. It's just something to be mindful of, right? I think that a lot of times we use these phrases and we think that they all have positive intent. And we think that, to your point, Jonathan, the way you're attempting to use it, right, is meant to be a relationship builder and a trust builder, right? Of like, hey, like I'm going to give you extra insight. But to some people, right, especially if they don't feel like they have a good relationship with you, that can be a negative. It could signal a, hey, wait, I don't really trust you. And now you're telling me all of a sudden you're being transparent. So were you BSing me the whole other rest of the time, right? It can create a question mark. So just something.
I guess it has to do with like the person's like the perception a person already carries.
Yes.
Because I'm a very glasses half full
right
existence. And so I'm not moving through the world assuming everybody's got an ulterior motive.
They're out to get you, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But other people, based on experiences they've had,
Right.
and if they have got crapped on or whatever, then they're a lot more guarded and a little more cynical, and they're probably like,
Or
pick up on those things.
or if they're like they don't like salespeople. I know that like
Yeah.
there are people that aren't salespeople focused, right? Like I don't want to go to the car dealership. I don't want to deal with this car dealership person, right? And at the car dealership, the guy's like, well, in the spirit of transparency. And you're like, wait, so the price of the car really wasn't that? Like I think it depends on the context, but it's important to realize that, there are people like me and the one other person in the world, don't know if you know this, that may see it a little differently.
Yeah.
The Rachels of the world are out there too. Enough, even in academia now. I'm just reading a litany of journal articles these days, and there's something called the persuasion knowledge model, and it's a cue of like once you realize you're being sold to, or once you realize that the other party is trying to do something within the realm of persuasion. To Rachel's point, it is kind of like a negative cue. You activate a little bit of hesitancy, even if the solution, the packaging, and the scenario is ideal for what your use case was in the first place. So it's something we have to be cognizant of. But I love being sold to. If I got to go buy a car, I don't like car shopping, but anything. It could be an alarm system. It could be a chair at Rooms to Go. I love being
Are
sold.
you critiquing the pitch the whole time? Like, are you analyzing the way the whole thing goes down? And I can see how that would be really interesting to someone who does that for a living.
Yeah.
Think about the whole shooting match. Can you give me what I need in a package that is palpable for me? Because that's a mutual win. So the ones that I trust the most in my own life, regardless of how big or how complex the cycle is are you listening to what I'm saying? Because customers, buyers, whether it's in professional or personal realm, we're always being direct. Like, this is what I need. And as soon as we start pitching other things, or, you should consider this, which had nothing to do with the original context of the request, that sets off that persuasion knowledge model, right?
Well, and it gives tone deaf. And that is something that irks me the most when I'm dealing with somebody who's trying to sell something. Like, do you understand how that just landed? Do you have any self-awareness? Are you hearing me at all? And it just comes off like really egotistical is not the word I'm looking for. But
salesy,
something in that, just in that vein, like you think you've got it all figured out. You came in here with a plan, and you were just gonna pitch me this, and I was just gonna hook, line, and sinker, and it's in the bag, and you're not even, you're not even hearing. This isn't even a dialogue.
That's the perception, right? It's whoever can speak the best with the most floral language, and how well can you deliver this pitch? When in reality, it's not really who speaks the best. It's who can listen most effectively. And then I think deals are built off questions. How is your line of questioning going to be affected by that? And it's just kind of an inverse way of thinking. You think you have to pitch and sell. And in reality, you need a solution. You need to figure out how to put together a solution. And that's my whole shtick. I believe focusing on customer relationship management and those relationships, you're going to get more. They're more likely to speak to you and trust you based off of those contextual little micro values you provided over time. And through that, you can build a business case. And that's a sale, as opposed to, you want to see behind door number 2? Yeah, that's nice.
So what do you like when you look at a sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you more intrigued by the negotiation, by the pitch, by the outcome? Like, what is the part of that sales process, or like the qualification process, right? Like, what is the part that gets you the most excited? Like, this is where you're like, all right, the juices are flowing. I'm full energy. This is the part that's the creme de la creme for me.
What a great question. And to kind of wrap it in a little bit of some of my background is I'm, a failed child actor turned professional sales rep, right? Account director, account manager. To Cassandra's point, I did study music in college. And so I think about, when was I in a flow state on stage? If I'm singing a ballad and trying to convey this message to an audience, I'm in a boardroom trying to make sure my message is resonating with VPs and C-levels about how I'm going to solve their problems. And that same kind of emotional firing of dopamine, I think, comes from early in the sales cycle. I think early in that discovery phase, because I know I have a transaction if there's a problem. There's always nice to have. But if there's a problem, and I know whatever I'm selling, whether it's software, whether it's advertising services, whether it's consulting, research advisory, if there's a problem and I can solve it, then we're good to go. And usually I see a lot of people get really nervous about the negotiation. Like, here's the price. I'm going to go through the price. Like, I love being at price. We're at price. We have a deal. If that's the only thing between us kicking off our project, we know that the value is there. We've agreed that my solution can help. We just need to figure out how to reformat the numbers or get cute with the billing terms. That's an absolute win. So to answer your question directly, though, Rachel, I really like the conversational point of like, what's the plan? What's going on? And I think we miss the mutual updates part. A lot of reps and account managers go in wanting this to be show and tell and extracting information. We need to be able to give some too. Here's what's on our docket. Here's what we're working on. Here's what's new with our company and our services. And so many opportunities for me have come from that, because if you share those updates in the interest of just educating your constituents, I guess, for lack of a better word, in your client book, a lot of the time they'll raise the hand. Well, what is this? Let's talk more about this. Jeremy, let's double click. Let's look, let's, get deeper in about that. And that's where conversations.
It wouldn't be an episode with you if those didn't come out. So I appreciate you getting that out of the way early.
I'm here to please.
I love it.
Okay, so we're going to take a pause and go back a little bit, because we've already dug into the meat of this episode without anyone telling, like, Jonathan needs to tell everyone why we should actually care about all the things that he has to say, and tell us a little bit about your origin story.
I forget everybody doesn't already know you, Jonathan.
Right.
You're so popular to me.
Yeah. No, you're right. Everybody does, actually. All of your listeners have met me before. This is the boss battle. For me to get on the podcast was the win. No, but I was, as you said, a commercial music major. So I was going to move to Nashville, LA, or New York, and I was going to be a music producer. And part of that is you get a business minor, which means I got to experiment with some of these business and economics courses, which led to that second degree. I decided to go the sales route because I didn't want to spend my life behind a computer as a music producer. And now I spend my life behind a computer as a account manager, right? So there are all over the country these collegiate professional sales programs. Do you know this? Like, you can
Yes.
major in sales.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
It's
did. I did.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So and look at you now. The value.
I know.
It's all a subset typically of the marketing discipline. And the reason behind that is I forget the statistic, but most of the marketing graduates end up in their first role being revenue generation, usually managing accounts. Hey, you're at this advertising firm where you manage these cases for us, manage these advertising programs. So they teach you a lot of these hard and soft skills that we kind of take for granted. Simple stuff like making eye contact, how to shake someone's hand, how to put together a resume, how to ask effective questions, how to clarify objections before just wanting to jump at the bit of, here's how I should do that. So I fell into this round of sales competitions and role plays because that's how they codify it. They give you a product, there's a rubric, and you go and sell in a hypothetical role play to a buyer on the other side of the table. And like, this is music. This is all performance. I could do this all day. What they don't teach you how to do is deal with rejection, how to prospect, how to cold call. So I got an amazing opportunity out of college where my first job was Gartner, which is, one of the largest research and advisory firms. And it's such a phenomenal opportunity because I'm all of 21 years old at the time, and I am talking to CEOs. And that's where I learned the most about my philosophy behind account management. And to answer the question about why everyone should care is I think there's just a better way. We don't have to focus on these Wolf of Wall Street examples where be quick, be salesy, be like the snake oil salesman, because that is where we get this idea of salesmanship. As opposed to professional sales, it is that consultative approach. It is asking smart questions. It's listening. And I was humbled very early on in my career by some real business people with real experience who gave me some real feedback in front of my real manager. And that's how I kind of developed my own methodology. So why you should care and why I'm doing the PhD is I want to prove that out empirically. Like, no, maintaining your customer account, selling good business, eliminating turnover, both in your accounts and in your frontline employees is good for the bottom line. We shouldn't be trying to get the $30,000 deal this month. We should be trying to get the $3 million deal 2 years from now based off a pattern of predictable success.
Amen. I love it. So
And
now
kudos
everyone knows
on that
more about
program.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Yes. Kudos on getting into the program and working on your PhD. I think it's awesome. I think do you think that being in performance and music and just having that persona has helped you in sales? I mean, I find that a lot of the best salespeople that I've ever worked with in the past, and I'm being sold to, not selling, let's all be clear.
Mhm.
But most of the time when you get to know them and you talk to them, they have some creative, some kind of background that lends itself to almost performance, which I think helps some of the best salespeople.
The
What do you
good
think?
ones, yeah.
The
To
good ones,
clarify,
yeah.
the good ones.
The good
I've
ones.
met some who clearly do not have those characteristics, and it shows.
Yes.
Those are sopranos. You can tell. I think it can help and hinder, right? Let's not kid ourselves. The performance aspect is helpful, but it's not helpful in the way of how can I be expressive. It's helpful in the way of maybe being adaptive or good under pressure or good with public speaking. A lot of the students that I get to work with now, that's something we have to work on, is public speaking and speaking with confidence. And it's like, I think Dale Carnegie said it. If you feel nervous about a subject that you're speaking about, then you don't have a right to be talking about that. I mean, you should be overly prepared for just about anything you put in front of another person. So I think to that aspect, it's the argument of using your powers for good. But sometimes you can get kind of big for your britches and think about, oh, I got this. As long as I say it well, I'm gonna deliver, and that's where you get shot in the foot. So I think it can support your end goal by being adaptive and being comfortable in front of a room, but the joke about sopranos isn't too far off, because you think about like string players who work in chamber music or a quartet. They're used to relying on each other. The viola needs the second violin, and they're used to that kind of collaborative aspect. Vocalist, and I'm speaking to my own kind here, it's a little bit different, because if you don't like my product, I can't go to a music store and buy a new larynx, right? It is what I have. It's not like buying a new trumpet or buying a new reed. So there can be a little bit of like, you dare deny my product? Like, no, you need to repackage your product and think about what the market, whether it's an audience or a buyer, is demanding for your product, and can you deliver that or can you not?
Yeah, I think the other thing too is just because maybe you like the arts, right? It depends on how much of you is actually extroverted versus introverted, and how you can pull that back, right? So like if you are an extreme extrovert, a lot of times, unfortunately, you are not selling to an extrovert, right? And so that kind of personality mirroring and matching of like, if this person is extremely high energy and the other person is not, maybe you need to tone it back a little bit, right? Because you're going to be overwhelming to that person. Or, if they're high energy and maybe you're not, maybe you need to dial it up a little bit so that you come across as, you are engaged, you are matching that kind of energy. So I think energy matching is probably, something the arts typically have a slight advantage on, because they're used to kind of playing those roles. But I've also, to your point, Jonathan, seen some of them that, they missed that memo. So how do they kind of make that adjustment overall?
Mm-hmm. I know some very successful introverts, which
Yeah.
is not what you would think of the slick
Right.
sales.
Well,
right?
but are they introverts or are they ambiverts?
Mhm.
Have y'all heard of ambiverts?
Yes, I am an ambivert.
Jonathan, do you know the term ambivert?
Educate me.
Okay, so it's a person who's got a blend of both, so they can adapt their behavior socially depending on the situation. At their core, they kind of have one that they lean towards, but you wouldn't necessarily know it. So if at their core they're kind of introverted, then they can turn it on, but then they have to have that like rest recharge, like recharge their social bank time. Maybe more than a true extrovert. And then on the flip side, an extrovert, so
Yeah.
they could be an ambivert that knows how to turn it on, but then when they go home at night, they gotta recharge that thing and get away from people.
There's a new one that came out too. I'm gonna Google it.
Omnivert, was that the new one?
Yeah.
Just release your new personality now.
That
Yeah.
sounds like a dinosaur.
I saw it on
Yeah.
LinkedIn the other day, but I don't remember exactly what it meant.
Rawr,
Right.
I'm an omnivert. I want to know what that means.
I'm
So
definitely an extrovert. That's
Yeah, me too.
an
No
an
doubt.
omnivert is a personality type by swinging between extreme introversion and extreme extroversion depending on the situation. Unlike an ambivert who's balanced mix of both.
You know what this is
So
giving? This is giving just more example of how everything is a spectrum, and we just need to stop having boxes for anything, because the reality is You can create a label and create a box, and you're just going to have too many people that don't fit it. And then you got to come up with all these terms.
But I think the benefit of the labels, right? Like, especially in sales, when you do like the discs or you do like any of these Myers-Briggs, right? Like all of these different studies, is to give you a perspective of how to engage with somebody who's different, right? So that's why you create the boxes, is because it's not necessarily, I mean, it's great for understanding you, but it's more important to understand how to engage with all the other people. Just like if you're a people leader, you don't have to have sales, right? But as a people leader, not everybody's going to be like me. If everybody's like me, I'm sitting at the wrong table, right? So you need to be sitting at a table with diverse people and giving people a baseline of understanding of maybe how other people may like to be engaged with, how other people may perceive something you are saying. I think that's why the boxes are created, is to give you that outer perspective of how to engage with others and resonate.
And I think that's just self-awareness in general. I think to be successful in anything, any field, any room, you just have to have self-awareness and read the room. Like, please read the room.
But do you know how many people don't? Like,
Yes.
there's so many people who, if they don't have tools, they're never going to get there.
Nope.
Lord, back to
I
what
know.
Jonathan was saying. I have been in many rooms with I say gentlemen, but it's been all kinds
It's both.
who did not read the room, and it
Mhm.
is so uncomfortable because those of us who are reading the room,
Right.
we know how uncomfortable we are, but we're also reading the rest of the energy and facial expressions, and I just want to crawl under the table when that's going
Mhm.
on.
There's a real flaw in my vocation about, we'll look down and it'll be 10 minutes before anyone else will say a word. We can just go on a ramble. And can I share a charming anecdote about one of my
Yes,
first
please
accounts
do.
ever? I'm all of 21 years old. I'm also the man, right? I'm coming out of 2 degrees, baby. I'm coming out of these sales contests and success.
You know it all.
I'm here to make my stake in this world as a new sales rep. And I don't think I'm outing anybody, but it's a wonderful company that does digital content management out of Chicago called MediaFly. You should check them out. They do a really great job with curating content. But they were one of my first accounts ever. And I was dealing with a CFO, CTO mashup, like one of these multiple individuals. And I'm on this call. My manager's on this call as well. So I am peacocking. I got all the buzzwords. You think I'm bad now? Oh man, we are delivering value today. And similarly, before I know it, I look down, it's been 10 minutes and no one else but me has said anything. I'm like, well, that's why I'm in such a good mood. I'm just hearing my voice. So I finally take a pause because I've been breathing on my ears for the past hour. And he says live on the call, that provides absolutely no value to my business whatsoever.
Oh, talk about
I
deflated.
feel all
Dun,
the
dun,
air.
About this big.
And there is a moral to this story because we're attached at the hip. I mean, this is my account, one of my key accounts for the year. And if there's anything I want your listeners to know, and I know you three have experienced this in your own professional time, is we can be trained. I mean, part of that relationship is for you as the buyer to enable us on how you like to be sold to, how your procurement process works. Because what are we always trained? You mentioned boxes. The whole sales methodology is, I want to learn about your business. Tell me about your business. And you get to hear it every 2 years when we turn over accounts, right? So that really took the conversation back of what would be valuable to your business. And he says something I'll never forget to me. He goes, great question. And that was when the relationship really kind of kicked off. And those micro moments happen throughout the entirety of the relationship, right? Like, I think I asked one time, I think I've done a good job managing your account. Would you agree? And he just laughed in my face. And he's like, that is a very loaded question. It's like, okay, wait.
Mm-hmm.
What are some areas in where I could improve your account management from Gartner? And then, delivering feedback, we can be trained. Like, that is a much better question, Jonathan, and an appropriate one. And then we go into the conversation. So a lot of my absolute line in the sands about account management came from this account because they took the time to enable me on how to best manage their needs. That's a big deal.
And I think that's important, right? I think as we all give feedback, being on the other side, right, of thinking about what you do and do not like about the sales conversation, right? I have a very big stickling point of, if you come to the call and say, tell me about yourself, and you haven't researched me, I have called people out on that before. Like, wait a second. So you came to this knowing nothing, right? Like you should have known something. You should have said, anything. Do a Google search. It'll come up, right? But I think how we give that feedback, right, is important because you learn from that feedback because you got it in a constructive way, right? But not everybody gives constructive feedback, right? Some people are just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're salesy, right? And instead of saying, hey, Jonathan, what about a better question? Or, what about phrasing something this way? Or have you thought about this sort of thing over here, right? So I think it's a two-way street. You got to make sure, like, when someone takes the time to give you the feedback, you incorporate it, right? And you've got to make sure when you're giving the feedback that you're giving it in a way that it can be incorporated. And then the most important thing is knowing when to walk away from bad feedback. Because I think like everybody has their own little nuances. Jonathan, have you experienced a time where somebody gave you some really bad feedback and you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And you just kind of walked away from that suggestion?
Oh, firing a customer. I've heard that term before. I know you're not asking about firing a customer, but that's what it made
But
me
it's
think
similar.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've usually, in full transparency, I've usually dealt with this from my internal command chains and internal teams as opposed to the actual client. That's a great question, Rachel, because I don't know. I live in this client's always right, even when they're wrong realm, because it's their version of what right is. I've had egregious ask before, right? Can you add 8 conference tickets to this DocuSign for free? No, it's like $40,000 worth of product. No. So there's that two-way street built on trust. But as frontline employees and sales performance management is really the cornerstone of my dissertation pursuits, right? Is how to manage up effectively. And if all these, especially in big tech, right? If we pride ourselves on being this team sale, what does that look like? And I hate to use the buzz term, but like, who's the quarterback, who's the player coach, and who's doing this? So from a management perspective, my most successful client relationships have come from management chains who have trusted my feedback and given me an area where I could push back on something respectfully as a frontline employee, as having the most exposure to these clients who have, in theory, trained me and enabled me on how to work with their procurement process and request budget. I've had really successful people leaders who have trusted that advice. And other times it's, their way or the highway. And I hate to say collect data, but decisions have consequences. You can kind of see which path made the most sense, which resulted in a higher transaction value, a time to fill, and overall client satisfaction scores. So I don't know if I've ever delivered ignored feedback back to clients. That just may be because I live in this state of blissful ignorance. If someone tells me something, unless I take it seriously, I don't know.
Glaze over and just let it go.
I am the golden retriever of big tech. Yeah.
Or you've just had fantastic clients. I mean, that could be a thing too.
I do.
I heard he's had some
I
good
heard.
ones.
I heard.
I've had some wonderful clients in the past. Let me tell you, lucky.
Yep. That
But,
does
yeah.
lead me to a question though of, you mentioned no. I mean, no one likes to hear no. You don't like to hear no, we're not going to buy that thing. We don't like to hear no, you can't have that for that price because we want it and we want it cheap. We want it to fit in budget. Not cheap, but we want it to fit in budget, whatever my budget is. So how do you say no in a way that you cannot, don't ruin that relationship with your client? Because no is a full sentence sometimes.
It is. I think it's very difficult to punish authenticity and transparency, right? Whether all the crap we give them for being buzzwords, if you're authentic with something and the reasoning behind no, it's very difficult to argue with numbers, right? Very, very difficult. Google is a phenomenal example. It was one of my favorite products to sell because we were working on AdWords, YouTube, the display network, app campaigns. And algebra was very simple as far as whether they were performance oriented or brand awareness oriented. How many clicks will it take based off of their numbers, right? Their own conversion rates on their website to kind of backtrack into a budget based off their cost per click. So when you have receipts, it's much easier to say no, because if you want to give me $50,000 and the goals you're trying to achieve are going to require $200K, you're not saying no to me. We're saying no to this product. This project plan won't work. So framing is everything. I try to avoid no just in general. And there's some ways to mitigate that from an account management perspective. One, it is essential to underpromise and overdeliver in every single aspect of the word. The inverse of that kills all client relationships if you overpromise and underdeliver. So being careful about what you say, and if you put numbers or agreements or opportunities in front of clients, I find it's essential to make sure you're good to go internally, and that's approved before you do that. Because the worst thing you want is to display something to one of your loyal partners, you end up not being able to deliver, and that is a data point. They're going to stick with that forever. But if you have receipts, if you can back up your information, it's very hard to argue with algebra.
That makes a lot of sense to me. All this kind of lends itself to creating that best in class customer relationship that your brand, right? For your sales brand, you want to make sure that you can create those best in class relationships. What does that look like to you?
Shameless prioritization of the customer. Shameless. The minute I stopped trying to hit my quota and I just worked on, maybe this is where the musician thing comes into play, Rachel. This desire for, I need you to like me, the minute I focus truly on how can I make every touch point, every interaction, every conference, every dinner, every email, every Zoom call, a positive interaction with myself and my company. The minute I started doing that, instead of I need to find a few more deals for the end of this quarter, from this year, my career absolutely exploded when I made that transition. Exploded exponentially. Because I think it's not just a people sell to people mantra. I hear that a lot, but no one's going to sign $1 million DocuSign just because they like me. I would be so humbled, but they're not. I mean, you have to have a business case line with that. I think the shameless prioritization of the customer experience is important because they're going to share more information with you. Plain and simple. We do this for the lucre. We want a signed DocuSign at the end of the day. You're not going to allocate budget unless there's a clear line between signing that DocuSign and value that we have already authenticated through. And if you skip those steps, you're built in a house of cards. So I have found in my experience, what I'm trying to research with this doctoral track is how can we quantify what that client relationship looks like and tie it to shorter sales cycles with larger basket sizes. Because I just think it works. And you're fighting an uphill battle on both sides of that equation, Cassandra, because we typically have an average tenure of 18 to 24 months in role. And it's a business model. The idea is, well, by the time we've either burnt out a sales rep or they've moved on to a different role, there's some other 21-year-old that's excited to start their career at Gartner, and they're going to fill that gap. And what do we say? I want to learn more about your business. So to Rachel's point about read the financial reports, hop on a LinkedIn search, get as much information as you can for the account going into that first call as you can, because you really have one shot to make a first impression, right? I just think that is essential. And I have no regrets. I've never looked back. I will continue to prioritize clients in my doctoral work because I feel it gives you better results for businesses. It's good for shareholders.
To your point about it being a partnership and a relationship, I think the companies who have that turnover so often are doing a huge disservice. And there are some that are well known for the constant turnover. Every 1 to 2 years, you're getting a new team or a new member of that team. And it's fine to say that you both have to train each other when you're going to put in that effort, and then that's going to be your team for the foreseeable future. But to invest that time and effort every 1 to 2 years, nobody wants to do that.
It's like an employee, right? That's how I think about it. Like, I'm going to take the time to interview you, right? Which is our first conversation we're going to have. We're going to go back and forth, figure out if we can trust each other, right? But if I'm going to take the time to tell you my procurement process, help you understand what we have to do from a legal perspective, I'm not going to retrain you every 2 years. It's just not going to happen. So I'm going to walk away. I'm going to distance myself, just treat you like all right, fine. Every 2 years, this person's going to come up, ask a question. Maybe I'll agree to it. Maybe I won't. But it's not a relationship. It's very much a transaction. And if you want that relationship, then it's a commitment of my time. It's a commitment of your time. You better make it worth it. And you better not constantly switch it on me, because then I'll opt out. And for one clarification, Jonathan keeps using the term DocuSign a lot. And I just want to make sure, for those of you who may not know, that is an application you can go to sign a contract. So when you hear him say that, that is a place where you could go and you could actually execute a contract, just in case. Hopefully we got a lot of techies out there and you already knew that.
Electronic signature. Yeah.
There you go. Just like you sign at the Walmart when you check out. It's kind of the same concept, except a contract.
But you were talking about learning about people, right? Like if you do have this transition every couple of years, because people leave, people go places, right? So eventually you're going to get a new sales rep. It just is what it is.
Mhm.
They have these tools, and what are they called? Like a CRM, where you can put all this information about.
Never heard of that.
Have you
Oh my
ever heard of such
This
a
is
thing?
so revolutionary.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
so happy.
And
you
for
could
those who
educate me
don't know
today.
about CRM, it stands for Customer Relationship Management
It's in the
System.
title. It's in the
in it.
title, what
Yep.
it's for. And we
I
kind of
quit.
know a little bit about the best one. I'm just saying.
And
But
you really can tell which companies have a CRM and use it well, because you
Mhm.
call in and they
Use
right
it
off
well.
the bat, use it well is the key part there. Like I call and I've only dealt with them like twice as a consumer, but they know exactly what went on last time, and they know the context in which I'm calling about. I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I feel
Just had to
targeted.
throw that in there.
ladies.
I just had to throw that in there.
It's not you. It's not you.
Well, even, you're mentioning there's those big important firms out there that have high turnover. A simple search of my LinkedIn will give you a panacea of them, right? I
Correct.
mean, it is a business model, right? And it's funny you mentioned they use the CRM correctly, because these whole orgs about you need to make 200 dials a day for cold calling. Let's go for net new opportunities opposed to managing an existing book of business. It would take me 30 minutes before making a cold call. I'm looking at press releases. I'm looking at a geographic footprint of businesses. I mean, people's past roles. It would take me a long time before I felt confident enough to make a cold call where I wasn't going to just have dribble come out of my mouth, right? And it's with that retiring or that moving on of your account team, it is a massive brain drain. I mean, it's really tough for your team, to Rachel's point about now I have to re-go through this procurement process with you. And the fact that on our end, on the account management team, we need to be documenting that. We usually document what this conversation was about, what opportunities did I hear. You get an org chart every now and then, which is really good. But the more you can go in with truly how this customer likes to be managed, that's a step that I think we skip a lot. It's not usually a lot of fields for that in a CRM. It's usually what is valuable, what's their revenue band, where do they exist, but not really, how do they feel? How do they feel about being sold to? Where are the emotions?
Well, there's great AI tools now, so I feel like as long as you're logging some amount of information about what's going on with your clients, AI should be able to give you sentiment
Yeah.
and
Well,
important highlights about what you
and
should
it
know.
is, you don't want to come off disingenuous, right? Like you don't want to put down like Cassandra likes dogs. So every time you call Cassandra, you ask about her dog. And it's like, okay,
Right.
well, the only thing you know about me is that Cassandra likes dogs. You don't know anything else
Mhm.
about me. So I think it's a combination of, you need to keep enough information in there so that you remember things about that person so that you can actually have a real conversation and be human, but not just like random facts. Because I worked with a sales rep who would literally do that. He would just write down random facts about people. Like, she likes Starbucks, she likes dogs, she has a kid. Like, okay, that's great. What else do you really know about that person? Like a Google search would tell you those things probably. So
It's not me, right? Your listeners
no, it's
should
not
know.
you.
Okay.
We're
It's not
talking
you.
hypothetically, Jonathan, never you.
Never you. No, you're a favorite. Okay, we're going to have to wrap this up soon because we are literally running out of time. So I did want to ask you just a couple of quick questions. One thing you wish that every customer knew about your job.
Oh man, this is a wrap-up question.
I know.
Dun dun dun.
I think the one thing that I wish everyone knew about our job, regardless of who's in this seat, if it's a new business rep, enterprise rep, different backgrounds, ages, and creeds, is that we are malleable. We are trainable. We're people. We have lives. We have families. But if you get a cold call from somebody you don't want to talk to, tell them why, and dare them to call you back based on better value next time. Give them something to work with. So, and if they don't do that, then you have a pretty clear reason as to why not to pick up the phone, right? But there's some things that are just decisions made above our head. And if you do have that revolving door of a rep, if you're not pleased with how your account management is going, regardless of who that partner is with, let that be known. Give that feedback directly and expect changes. And if not, you go up the value chain. But I think that'd be the number one thing people should take away is you can train us. You can enable us on how you would like to be serviced in your context. You're the one paying for it, so you should get what you want out of that relationship. I firmly believe that.
Totally agree. So what's next for Jonathan? So with this PhD, at the end of the day, once you get this PhD, what do you plan to do with that information and that degree?
Well, at the end of this, I'll be Dr. Riviere, right? So I was just going to be a supervillain, to be honest with you. That name is so cool.
Oh, we need to get you a cape for your graduation present.
Would do anything for a cape. Don't
with a big the big collar.
Yeah, going full Doctor Strange. So yeah, I think, I'm here to save our vocation on both ends of the aisle, right? On one end, I do want to study the benefits of AI and where is that bright line between where you can do kind of smaller complexity deals where an autonomous agent makes sense, but where is that line on the sake of our customer and their satisfaction where we need a warm breathing body to manage the intricacies of that relationship? So that's one hand. But I also want us to sell better. I want us to enable better. I think we should be account managers, not account executives. I'll put that on my tombstone. That'll be the name of my memoir, I'm sure. But at the end of this, I want to be teaching full-time at a university and researching how we can improve our sales methodologies and our approach so then everybody wins. I have to empirically prove why it's better for your shareholders if you have good people in the driver's seat.
So you need a monocle, right? Like if you had a monocle, like that would, because you're investigating, you're keeping it dialed in.
It's going to get weird. I'm going to put 2 monocles, one for each eye. I mean, I'm going to do some weird stuff.
There you go. It's going to be great. Well, unfortunately, while we love talking to you, and we will have you back anytime, any day, you just name it, it is that time for us to say goodbye. So, Karami, take us home.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Coffee Meets Cloud. Our thanks to JR. We're so glad you guys spent part of your day with us. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world if you followed the show or left a rating or subscribed on your favorite platform. It helps more people find us and lets us keep bringing you real conversations about tech and leadership and life. And stay connected. You can find us on all socials at Coffee Meets Cloud or visit our website at coffeemeetscloud.com for episodes, updates, and more ways to get involved. Share this episode with a friend, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.